rooted in community and built for you. This is the You plus TFCU Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of You plus TFCU. I am one of the guest hosts, Andrew.
And I'm Amanda. And today we're super excited to welcome Dave Willis. Hi, Dave. Welcome.
Well, good morning, and super excited. It's Monday morning. Is it really super excited, or you're just glad to be here?
I am beyond super excited.
Yeah, we didn't really consider from a guest perspective what happens on a Monday morning for other people when they come in here at 10 o'clock and expect them to be happy and excited to be on camera for an hour. But thank you for joining us.
Well, you didn't expect also that the CEO always feels like he's a Monday morning at the Improv too. So
I'm ready.
Good.
We'll see what you get.
It's part of the excitement.
We need all the material we can get.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself, just personally. How long have you been here at the credit union? A little bit about you. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't put that on your question list.
didn't.
Sorry. I figure you know the answer.
I was born in a barn in 1964.
You went really far back.
Oh, not that far?
I mean, it's your story.
So yeah, I started here October 2008, which is interesting. I had been 27 years the COO as a credit union up in the Seattle market, and we came to Oklahoma on vacation. My brother-in-law lived here. My sister-in-law's family was from here, and we saw the ad, and I decided to reach out and say, "What would it be like to be a COO for Tinker Federal Credit Union?" And after that, it's kind of history. Started here in October 2007, was the CEO for many, many years. And actually next month, Mike Klober and I will be going to lunch to celebrate 4 years since he retired. Can you believe 4 years since he retired?
So you came to TFCU about 18 years ago. What was going on in the world in 2008 in the financial world?
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting question. In 2008, in October, literally, my wife, myself, and our dog were in my truck pulling a trailer with a minimal amount of furniture so that I could set up shop in Oklahoma as our kids got through school and we made the transition, sold a house. And as I'm driving, this is no joke. So my wife and my dog are sleeping together with their heads next to each other, my dog in the back, wife in the front, and their heads are on the center console sleeping as I'm listening to the news about the entire economy going into the toilet.
Yeah.
It was an interesting time because I'm driving and I'm thinking I'm going to a credit union. I really don't know in depth how strong and financially well they've been managed, and the economy's tanking, and what have I got ahead of me? So good news is I showed up at Tinker, dug into the financials real closely, and discovered real quickly that we are extremely financially sound then and still today, as a matter of fact. And we weathered that quite well. We had record share growth through those next 2 years because everybody was leaving the stock market, coming to a safe haven, and credit unions have always been that safety and soundness place to put your money. Mm-hmm. So we had record growth in those years, and it's just been lots of success after that. It's gone really well, but yeah.
So you mentioned one of the first things you did was you really just looked at our financials. You wanted to know who we were. You looked back. Mm-hmm. So for our listeners, for those that may be watching, tell us a little bit, how did we start as a credit union?
So it just so happens I took some notes because, again, I wasn't here at that time. But 80 years ago, next March 20th, we'll be celebrating our 80th anniversary as Tinker Federal Credit Union. We started, though, in 1946, and we opened our first branch on Tinker Airfield. So a couple notes about that. I'm just going to read these. Our first loan was $300 on June 5th, 1946. $300 was our big money win loan for that time. We ended that year with $4,000 in total assets, 152 members. And by the end of the year, we had 45 people that had taken a loan out with TFCU. And we've just never looked back. It's grown since then.
So a lot of growth since then. Like broad strokes, how has TFCU changed since the 1940s and 50s that might bring us into kind of what the modern organization looks like?
Well, I tell you what, in the early 2000s was probably our most outstanding growth. We added, let me just look here. We went to the Tulsa market. We added Enid. We added Ada. So we started growing outside the Oklahoma City metro area. After that, in 2013, we had a Moore branch destroyed in a tornado. That's actually after I got here, and that was one of the most interesting things I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And really, that spoke a lot about our commitment to our communities that we serve as an organization.
Yeah. So we have a huge commitment to the community, to our membership. I think, one of the questions that I pre-read was about what's different from us and other institutions. And I think our commitment is members first and employees second. And profitability and stability are just second nature to sticking with that commitment. As long as we take care of our members, we're finding the right products and services. But we spend so much time out in the community, and I'm going to save this for your next podcast because I know you got Nancy coming in. She will talk about all the financial education, the things that we do out in our community, how involved we are. But we believe that the only reason we're here is for our membership, but we believe as a not-for-profit cooperative that we also have a commitment to those communities that we serve them as well. And we do that quite well. But yeah, our commitment to the community and more when that happened was truly for us to get back up and running and open as quickly as possible.
So from like a core value perspective, we are doing our best to represent our community, our employees, and our financial stability. But from a technical perspective, how do you differentiate a credit union from a bank? Because they are different entities. What is that differentiation?
So credit unions are where people do their banking in a different way, right? And it is called banking. It's banking as a verb, right? Not banking as a entity or a noun. Mm-hmm. It's the same kind of service: credit cards, loans, deposits, and savings. The difference is, as a not-for-profit credit union, which is a tax status, we have a commitment to making sure we're giving those profits back to the membership. Our board of directors is a volunteer board of directors that are just here to consider the best thing for the membership. They're not here for a dividend check and the profitability. And I think that becomes the major differentiator between a credit union and a bank is that they're about stockholder earnings. We're more about our stockholders are, as I got in my notes here, 462,000 plus members that we need to give that back to in the manner of deposit rates and savings on loans and services, which includes the community, right? Given back to everybody. And none of that money is kept and sent into the pockets of any of our board members or executive team. There's a cost of operation, right? We got to pay everybody's salary and we have to pay for the buildings that we're in, but those are costs of doing business anywhere. And our biggest priority, though, is taking care of our members with giving money back and giving services back to the membership.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about our roots and where we came from and where you came from, but what's something about TFCU that people might not realize?
So something you might not realize about TFCU is we've got a massive network of select employee groups. So you don't just have to be a Tinker Air Force Base employee to qualify for membership. The other thing people may not know is, I'm sure people have heard about this, but we purchased a bank a few years ago. And in 2020, the world was in a different kind of state, right?
It was.
We've got COVID, 2020 is coming. It was a very interesting time. And we purchased a bank. Not because we were trying to grow our assets, not because we were trying to grow our field of membership. We literally have a branch 1 mile south of the bank that we bought. But we weren't offering business services to our membership. So the bank was looking for an investor. We purchased it. We instantly created commercial and business services for our members, and we've got $400 million in commercial loans on the books right now that's performs quite well. So we didn't make that purchase as an intent to try and grow or expand our reach into anything other than it was a service we didn't have. It was a service our members wanted, so we made that happen.
Nice.
We also just expanded this year into Texas. In the long-term scheme of things, it's probably a good thing for us to expand into other markets, but it wasn't intentional. We had a Texas credit union that needed some financial assistance. They needed some help from a bigger credit union that could help them stay alive. And they had, I think, between 2,000 and 3,000 members. So it was a small credit union, but it was still a credit union. So we believed in the credit union spirit of people helping people. And we went into Texas and did the merger. It was very costly for us, but at the same time, it was costly for us. At the same time, though, those 2,000 members now have a place to do business. Yeah. We found out at that same time, we have several members in that Denton area that we can continue to serve. And so we'll continue to grow. I think it was the right thing to do. There was some opportunities for others in that market to take over and stand up and be the hero. And, they chose a different path. We believe in the credit union spirit of people helping people. And this was a scenario of credit unions helping credit unions. And it's the right thing to do, right? I think of anything in this world for us as a credit union, we just need to look at it and say, was it the right thing to do? And in this case, it absolutely was. Yeah.
Good.
Dave, you made a comment a few minutes ago about being a not-for-profit, which is in differentiation from a for-profit or a non-profit. You mentioned that was a tax status. Can you explain that a little bit to anyone who hasn't heard these terms before?
Yeah, so I think this gets confused a lot, that my credit union at Tinker Federal Credit Union is a nonprofit, so they shouldn't spend any money and they should always be losing money. That's not how it is. It's simply a tax status. Back in 1934, the Federal Credit Union Act was passed, and it gave credit unions a federal tax exemption. It allows us to operate without that federal tax to give more back to the memberships, because as a cooperative, we're owned by our members. Our profits go back into the members, and it is just a tax status. Our primary job is banking services, right? Now, there's a lot of banks out there that have, over the history of credit unions, wanted to make a thing about this tax status for credit unions. And I always find it interesting, because when I go back and look at a lot of those credit unions, they are a subcorp S, which passes all their tax burden through the profits of the stockholders. And if you kind of dig into it, those subcorp S's are not all that different. They're, as a business, not paying taxes. They're passing their income tax through to their stockholders. And for the really big banks, they're avoiding all of that taxation by shipping all those funds offshore to other countries where they don't have to pay that same tax burden. So it's a political game that a lot of banks like to play. But again, we're paying our fair share. We do pay local taxes. We are paying our way. The point of it is we're here to serve our members, and any profits we make need to go back into taking care of our members, not the pockets of stockholders that are just trying to get wealthy after the process. So that's really the bottom line difference. It's the same products and services. For any bank that wants to complain that it's not the credit union way to offer all the same banking services as anybody else, it is. It's just a tax status. We're still doing banking services for our members, and it's what we should do.
And from what I've heard, we have different rules as well. So it's not really just a tax status. We have a totally different set of, totally different playbook that we have to go by. We don't have the same opportunities at times, and we have different rules that we have to adhere to.
Well, yeah. So if you look at the difference, banks don't have the same thing called field of membership. We are limited to who we can serve. So there are 3 types of field of membership. There's a community charter, which you define a geographical area that you'll serve. Okay. Anybody who lives, works, worships, or is educated within that geographical boundary could be eligible for membership. Or we have a employer-based, which we are. Actually, we're a multi-common bond, but that employer-based that we have is how we got there. So when we first originally opened this, we were only eligible to the civilian personnel that worked at Tinker Airfield and nobody else. We had to add military as a field of membership. We've had to add and we have a lot of selected employee groups now, because it really benefits us to get our services out to more. But anytime we want to go into a market, it is a regulatory exercise to be able to serve them. We can't just go anywhere. We also have limitations on how we can make money. Right? Banks have the ability to make some investments and invest into other things that credit unions can't. We're limited to those investments. So we've got loans and investments that we can make money off of. And if we don't have enough loans going out the door, we need some place to put that money. But we're very limited to what kind of investments we can invest in because of our credit union status. We have regulatory limits on that. We also have regulatory limits on how much we can do in commercial lending because we're a credit union. So there are a lot of limitations put on credit unions. But I'll tell you, the very first credit union started out doing business loans. But nowadays, people have forgot that all the way back, maybe Martha Mary Credit Union. I'd fact checkers, figure out who that first credit union was that did commercial. But the very first credit union did quite a bit of business loans.
Is that the real name, Martha Mary Credit Union? That would have been great.
All right, quick, Liz, do the fact checking. Am I accurate?
That's a yes.
So yeah, there actually was
okay.
Boston area. Yeah, something like that. So in 1934, the Credit Union Act was passed, and it kind of opened the gates for businesses that didn't feel like their employees were being served by the banks, that they were able to do a credit union, and essentially Joe would make a deposit, and Andrew was able to go out and get a loan for a pair of work boots, right? The first credit union I was in, I loved always telling that story because the deposits that were put into that credit union, the first loan was for a pair of steel-toed work boots for the folks that were working at Puget Sound Naval Shipyard. So I went from the Naval Shipyard Credit Union to Tinker Air Force Base Credit Union. So I've been doing this a few years. Yeah.
So much like the credit union, just how things change over time. So that first loan was really about maybe some boots or a small need or something just to meet a need in the meantime. How have you noticed that members, their needs have changed over time?
Well, members' expectations and members' needs have changed over time now. We're loaning for a whole lot more than that. We do mortgage for people to be their first-time home buyer or buy their last home, save for college, do a student loan. We do all of those kind of loan services. But the consumer needs have evolved because things have become so expensive. You know, one of the biggest things that the financial industry as a whole is trying to grapple with is overdraft protection. It was is a key player since 2009 with the formation of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. But we have we have just as many members today living paycheck to paycheck that need that extra service. So we're trying to find the least expensive route to allow them to make those transitions, because nobody wants to wait till next week to get baby formula, right? Oh. If I got to get to work, I got to put gas in my car. For those little short-term interventions, I think we've got a pretty good overdraft protection program. But the living to paycheck is a reality today, and becoming more so with the economy getting so expensive and the uncertainty of tariffs and not knowing how I'm going to buy eggs next week, right? Who knew eggs were going to be the most expensive thing in the grocery store? And so I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we can help our members get ahead financially, or at least succeed to the point where they can pay their bills and stay in their homes and take care of their kids and to do the things that are important. So we have a huge responsibility there. And I don't think anybody in this organization takes that lightly, that we're still here just to take care of our members, whether they are doing a $1 million commercial loan or they just need to get by until Monday because payday came on Friday or something happened. So we take that very seriously.
So things have shifted with our membership in the way that life has changed. You kind of alluded a little bit to, or started to talk to, about some of the big milestones that TFCU has gone through, from changing the way we added the military as an SEG to some of the branches that we started to build in outlying territories. What are some other big milestones that we've had over the last 80 years?
Over the last 80 years. Well, I know this last 17, 18 years for sure, but I think over the last 80 years, one of the things that has evolved for not just us, but all credit unions, is we've become more of that Main Street financial institution for members and business owners alike. And that's evolved a bit, right? I think in the very beginning, it was just taking care of those frontline employees that needed somebody to help them with that next loan for their work boots or to have a checking account to save. But I think we've become full-faceted kind of financial organization that we help people with. Our TFS group helps people plan for and save for retirement now, and helps them through retirement with different savings plans and programs that they can work with. We've got a fully all the products and services for mortgages. We've got a full mortgage service business that we run, the commercial side. A lot of those things didn't exist early on in credit unions. When I first started in credit unions back in the Stone Age, we had savings, checking, consumer loans. And it's interesting because we've been doing town hall meetings with staff, and one of the most interesting things is we get a lot of people saying, oh, we're just so busy with loans. And when I ask the numbers, it takes me back to when I was that MSO in the branch, and I would do 25 loans in a day, and they weren't on the system. They was all by hand with paper and pen. Or
stone, right?
Well, yeah, stone.
Sometimes.
Every once in a while, I'd sharpen the chisel, but we did advance to ink on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And I had to take all of my loans to the branch manager for decisioning. So a member that applied for a loan on Tuesday could get a decision in the afternoon on Wednesday, and then we could issue the loan Wednesday afternoon or Thursday.
Wow.
And we thought that was record pace loan turnaround approval rate. I would sit in a back room on a little typing teletype machine that I would submit all the credit reports for the day. So I would take 25 loans in, run all their credit reports, make my pen written recommendation for approval or denial and why. And then I had to go through all of those with my branch manager. And I was one of 8 people in that branch doing the exact same thing. I mean, I can't imagine being a branch manager back in the day. Well, I can. I was a branch manager for a while. But that was just with basic consumer loans. We got into credit cards after I'd been there a while and ultimately into mortgages, but just basic loans and account services. And our members relied on us so heavily.
So Dave, if you could just tell us, what has leading TFCU taught you about personally?
Wow, what has leading TFCU taught me personally? So here's what I think is the most important thing about leadership. It now has nothing to do with me. Everything I say has something to do with what somebody else hears. And with a diverse staff, everybody hears things a little bit differently.
You mean how they interpret it?
Their interpretation and what they believe the message is behind it. Mm-hmm. So my leadership has to be somewhat generic in hopes that everybody gets the same message out of it. But and I think this is one of those things that as we get through developing leaders in an organization, they usually come up through the ranks with very strong technical skills, right? Liza was a great teller, so let's make her a new accounts rep, and now she should be a loan officer. Next thing you know, we're putting somebody that had really strong technical capabilities into the position of manager.
It's very much a military mindset.
Well, and it's a different skill set because now I need people skills. Mm-hmm. And then as you develop those people skills, now we start looking for people to go into senior leadership, and it becomes strategic skills and the ability to delegate and let go of stuff, right? So it works us into a corner. So, we paint ourselves into a corner when it comes to leaders that develop all the way through and make it a CEO, and they still want to be hands-on and control everything.
Yeah,
you just can't do it. So I have to be much more trusting that everybody's going to do what they're supposed to and get things done the way that I would hope. But if it's not the way I hope, at least the results I hope will be what we need for the membership. I am really just more of a cheerleader to remind us all the time that it's about the members. Mm-hmm. And if I can bring other leaders up through the process by giving them those skills, we'll be better off down the road. Because, I keep talking about a little experience I had several years ago with Emmett Smith. And he was talking about his first experience with the Dallas Cowboys when he came out of college. Very proud of himself. He was very high on how great of a rusher he was and how many yards he had ran in college. And he ran a few plays, and each time that he ran a play, the line would stand up, move aside, and he would get buried in the background, or in the backfield, excuse me. And the line told him after a couple of experiences with that you need to understand why and know why you're a 1,000-yard rusher. It's because we're blocking for you. And I believe that's the whole thing for us as an organization. People need to understand that there's somebody in IT, there's somebody in compliance, there's somebody in marketing, there's somebody in every area that are all contributing to that success. Mm-hmm. I believe our running backs are our members, our employees in the branches and the call center that are making those wins every single transaction for our members. But without all of those people blocking, all of the people in the background, all the people supporting through the process, it doesn't happen. So we've all got a role to play, and we need to not lose sight of that. And we also need to know what everybody else's function is. I need to know what my action is if I am in IT or if I'm in facilities or whatever I do. If I do something just because it's the easy shortcut for me as an employee and it has a negative impact on that person running the ball with the members helping to do a win every time, then it was a failure. It was a failure of the back-end support. And I think that's the most important thing about this is an organizational team. We're all in this to try and ensure that every single member every time is a home run. They're not always going to be, but it's all our objectives for that. Not what's easy for me. What would be the shortcut? How can I do a workaround? What's going to make it less expensive? Sometimes it's a little more expensive to provide the best service in the world than it is to not. So it's a balancing act, right? Okay, we're going to change. We're going to go away from sports, and I'm going to go to the orchestra, right? If anybody goes and listen, if you ever go and listen to the orchestra or the concert band and stuff, you can hear them warming up, right? And they're literally wow, 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 all kinds of noise in the back. It's just like noise, right?
Right.
But when the conductor gets up there, it's a symphony, and there's harmony, and everybody's on the same pace. We all have to be on the same page of music. And again, all I can do is, and Cindy, it's not a magic wand, it's my conductor wand. All I can do is wave my conductor wand and hope everybody's landing in sync. So I have very little power to get us where we need to be. It's everybody in the organization working together is what's going to get us where we need to be as an organization. We are the largest and probably the best credit union in the state of Oklahoma, if not in the country. We are in the top 50 in size of credit unions, but we have a little ways to go to be the best, because sometimes our members get disappointed, and that for me is a lose. When we lose that one member transaction, it's the biggest thing of the day.
Well, Dave, if you could leave our listeners with just one thought about who we are, what would it be?
Wow. I mean, that's a big one. TFCU exists to serve our members and ensure they're getting the best financial experience every time, all day, every day. And I think the most important things for our listeners, I'm assuming is mostly our employees, that what you're hearing through this is that there's not a single play that we get to take off. We have to be there engaged every single time, no matter what our position is. And we need to support everybody through the organization, that in the end, somebody in that string is serving a member. And that member deserves our very best every single time.
Very appreciative of your time. I know it's a lot to take an hour out of your day to come and sit down with us on our podcast, but thank you for that. But thank you for joining us here on another episode of You Plus TFCU.